Hey guys, so nice to see you. Welcome to another one of my live streams. So, it has been a difficult couple of weeks for me. Hang on, let me just adjust this camera a little bit. 1 second. You might notice some twins with my doll. Hold on, let me back up so you can see my face. Here we go, that's better. That is way better. Let's try this one more time. It has been a difficult couple of weeks for me, but I've used my writing to escape as much as I can into my writing zone. Today, I'll be reading chapter 27 from my most recently published novel, Was I Ever Normal? If you're interested in purchasing your own copy of Was I Ever Normal, it is available in Barnes & Nobles across the country. You can get it in the actual Barnes & Noble store, or you can go to their website and have the option of purchasing it as a paperback or an ebook. Was I Ever Normal is also available on Amazon as a paperback or Kindle, and it's also available at Books A Million stores across the country, both in actual stores and online. If you go to the homepage of my website, chronicallyalive.org, and scroll all the way down, you can also find a list of a whole bunch of independent bookstores across the US and internationally that carry my book. Anyway, we last left Cassie in chapter 26, where she had called a suicide hotline at 1:30 a.m. as an attempt to avoid listening to the command hallucinations and overdosing on the pill she had been stocking up to take the following morning after she had a chance to say goodbye to her parents, who were on a date night at a hotel. After talking to the hotline guy for a while, she started to get anxious because he kept asking her to put her grandparents on the phone. But every time she tried to hang up, he would say something to keep her on the phone a little longer. We'll pick up reading here at the beginning of chapter 27. Just when I really started to worry, I thought I heard sirens. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining things, but I had that gut feeling deep within me again that those sirens were for me. When our doorbell rang a bunch of times in a row, I was pretty sure my suspicions were more than just paranoia. Why do you think my doorbell might be ringing? Asked the man. My hand was shaking so bad that I almost dropped my phone. I think my supervisor might have sent someone over to help you. They had traced my call. An imaginary heavy metal weight dropped straight through my body. The doorbell continued ringing incessantly. My thoughts were racing around in circles. What do? I asked the guy who had betrayed the confidentiality I thought I'd had. Don't hang up the phone, but go answer the door, he instructed me. I bolted down the stairs before the doorbell could wake up my grandparents. Before I even opened the door, I could see that the street and our entire house was swallowed up by red and blue lights. I felt like I had seriously screwed up. The voices were angrily enforcing that feeling. I opened the door, but I was shaking so hard that I had to lean against it for support. There were police officers, firefighters, and paramedics, all standing on my porch. I wanted them off my porch. I wanted them far away. Are you the 13-year-old girl that took some pills? Asked one of the police officers. I shook my head no. I was going to take some pills, but I didn't yet. I was trying to talk to this guy from a hotline so I wouldn't take them tonight. I explained to the people on my porch as I tried to ignore the voices that no one else could hear. Who else is home with you? Asked one of the paramedics. I shakily stepped out onto the porch, closing the front door behind me. I heard it click shut, but didn't pay much mind to it. The last thing I wanted to do was wake up my grandparents. My plan was to somehow convince these people that I would be fine and that they could just leave. My grandparents, but I can't wake them up. They would get too scared. They're older, and I really don't want to frighten them, I explained. Well, you're going to need to wake them up because you're going to need to go to the hospital so that the doctors can try to help you feel better, one of the women paramedics with the red hair told me, as she led me to one of our wooden porch chairs and sat me down to take my pulse. What did you take and how much? She asked me. I told you, I didn't take anything. She shook her head. Why are you shaking like that then? She asked, as she slipped the blood pressure cuff around my arm. Your pulse is also very high. You need to tell us the truth so that we can better take care of you. I really didn't take any pills, I promised. But I could tell none of them believed me. One of the police officers tried the door. The knob didn't turn. He tried it again. The knob still wouldn't turn. I felt like I had just swallowed the keys to my own handcuffs as I realized what had happened. Uh-oh, I whispered. What is it? Asked the red-headed paramedic. I think I might have accidentally locked us out of the house, I whispered, my throat tightening up with fear and dread. Do you have a key? Asked the police officer. I shook my head no. By that point, I was so scared I was vibrating. I didn't know what to do, and my thoughts were pounding through my head so fast that I couldn't even make sense of them. Finally, I came up with a horrible idea, but I knew it was the only thing left to do. You can call my parents, I whispered to the group that had invaded my porch. They're on vacation, but they have their cell phones on. In a forlorn whisper, I gave up the number needed to reach my parents and puncture their vacation at 2 a.m. I heard the officer's end of the conversation. In my head, I imagined how upset and disappointed my parents would be with me. It burned and stung. I wished the porch would just open up and swallow me whole, taking me away into an easier world. But instead, the officer finished talking and turned to me. Your dad said that he'll call your grandparents so that we're not the ones that have to wake them up. He'll tell them what's going on, and they'll open the door for us. I nodded, gulping back tears. I was vibrating even faster now. I looked up at my house and the road and all the people on the porch, bathed in red and blue lights. I wondered if I could make a run for it. I pushed myself up to a standing position and tried to tense my quivering muscles. The officers closed in around me, though, and I knew they must have read my thoughts. Bellingham must have been sending the messages. He was sucking them out of my head. The red-headed paramedic put an arm on top of my arm and gently sat me back down in the chair on the porch. I didn't resist. I was outnumbered. And with Bellingham sending them my thoughts, I didn't have a chance at getting away. For the millionth time since I'd heard the doorbell ring, I wished that I had never called that traitor guy on the hotline. My grandpa opened the front door after we'd been waiting for what seemed like hours. He looked worried, but not angry, like I thought he would be with me. The police officers stayed downstairs to talk to him. The redheaded paramedic and the woman police officer came up to my room with me. They pulled on gloves when they got to my room. Bellingham said the gloves were because they knew that I was contaminated with poison. Where are the pills you are going to take? Asked the red-headed paramedic. in a tone that told me that she didn't believe that I had not already taken the pills. I walked over to my desk and started to hand over the pills, the one thing that was going to have saved me from falling deeper and deeper into the pits of hell that Fellingham and the narrator had me tumbling through. The paramedic held out her hand, but my fist refused to open and let go of the pill bottle. She had to kind of pry it out of my hand, because even though I was telling myself to give her the bottle so that they would just leave me alone, a part of me was terrified to let go of my one-way ticket out of life. Bellingham hissed when the paramedic brat managed to get the bottle out of my death grip. I almost cried out, but I managed to stop myself. "You will die tonight. You and I will make sure of that. Tonight, you will die," Bellingham screamed in my ears. I began shaking even harder. The woman police officer put a hand on my back to steady me. She led me back down the stairs. On the way downstairs, I saw my grandmother on the landing. She looked so small and vulnerable in her silky pink nightgown. She was pacing and shaking her head. When we passed her on the stairs, she turned to me and spoke. I saw the wetness of sad tears in her eyes. "You should have told us that you weren't okay. You should have woken us up." She shook her head again. The sadness in her eyes ran so deep. She paced around like she was lost and trying to find her way back home. I felt a shot of guilty pain slash through my gut, ripping me open to expose raw nerve endings. I didn't even need Bellingham's whispered words to convince me that I had been a very bad girl. The paramedics studied the pills when we got downstairs. For the millionth time, I reassured them that I hadn't taken any yet. A police officer was on the phone with my dad. My dad told the officer that I didn't usually lie about stuff like this, and that if I said I didn't take the pills, then it meant I probably hadn't. The voices of Fellingham, the narrator, and the chorus were getting louder than the words of the people around me. They were urging me to go to the bathroom and swallow the hand sanitizer. They said I still had time to kill myself with it. I could salvage the whole situation. One of the guy paramedics was asking my grandpa if he wanted to ride in the ambulance with me. My grandpa was apparently arguing with the emergency crew. "She doesn't need to go to the hospital. She'll be fine. Her parents will be home soon and everything will be okay." "She needs to get checked out at the hospital," one of the officers argued back. "Can you at least wait for her mom and dad to get here?" my grandpa asked. The officer shook his head. "She needs to go now. We can't just wait for an hour." "But she said she didn't take anything. She's okay," my grandpa said. "It doesn't matter. She had pills she was storing up to try and kill herself with. That's enough reason for us to want her to get checked out. We just want to keep her safe," the officer told him. My eyes darted back and forth between the two men. It was like watching a verbal ping-pong ball game, but much less fun. "Drink the hand sanitizer. If you want your grandpa to be okay, then drink that hand sanitizer." I forced myself to look away from the argument and dashed into the bathroom. The sound of footsteps pounded behind me. I didn't know if they belonged to Bellingham or one of the emergency response personnel. I didn't really care. All I knew was that I had to drink the hand sanitizer. I had to make sure my grandpa was okay. After all this mess, he deserved at least that much. Just as I was raising the bottle to my lips, I felt hands close around my wrist and yanked the bottle away. No, they couldn't stop me. This had to be done. I had to do this. My thoughts were fragmented, and all I knew was I had to look for another way to die. I lunged for the sunscreen on a shelf near the sink. A hand took it away. I darted back into the kitchen where everyone was gathered, trying to outsmart whoever it was that was trying to keep me alive. And I didn't care. I grabbed at it. I felt hands pull me back. My eyes flashed around the room, searching, but could find nothing. I could hear pieces of what the real people in the room were saying, but not much. Here, she won't take the pills. Watch, my grandpa was saying. He handed me the pill bottle. Without thinking twice, I began unscrewing the lid. I felt hands wrench the bottle out of my hands. I felt hands grab one of my arms. She needs to go to the hospital right now, a voice said. I felt my grandpa's hands grab my other arm. She'll be fine at home, my grandpa argued back. The voices of my grandpa and the people around me were dissolving into fizz. Go back to the bathroom, swallow the sunscreen, drink the soap. You must die. If you want your grandpa to be okay, then you must die. Shaking off the hands, I made a mad dash toward the bathroom. Everything was going on around me too fast. It was impossible for my brain to process everything. And then I ended up crashing into several chairs, the edge of a table, and the edge of a counter. In the bathroom, everything seemed too bright, too sharp, too clear. I managed to find the sunscreen again. Once again, I reached for it. But out of nowhere, those hands were back on me. They were pulling the bottle out of my hand and pulling me away from the bottle. Tears dripped down my cheeks, but I didn't know where the tears had come from. Now the hands were pushing me back into the kitchen that was swarmed with police officers, EMTs, and paramedics. I was aware that everyone wanted something from me, but I wasn't aware of what they wanted or how to give it to them. A hand was around my right wrist and right upper arm. It was pulling me hard. I finally, after several minutes, was able to connect the hand to a body and a face, and I discovered that the hand belonged to one of the police officers. Another hand was on my wrist and left upper arm. That hand was pulling me hard as well. Again, it took me several minutes to connect the hand to the body and face of its owner. That hand belonged to my grandpa. They were both pulling at me. I was a rope in a tug-of-war match. I tried to follow their mouths to see what they were saying, but I wasn't able to get my brain to focus long enough to do that. The tug-of-war match ended. My grandpa's grip on my arm loosened. More of the emergency personnel were grabbing me. They were pulling and pushing me toward the front door of my house. I was scared. I didn't know where they were taking me. For some reason, it didn't connect in my head that they were bringing me to the hospital. The part of my brain that was supposed to make connections like that apparently wasn't working properly. Hands lifted me into the back of the ambulance. The voices screamed in protest. I just let the hands guide me to the stretcher. I lay there limply as the mass of people tightened the seatbelts around my body. The fight in me had all drained out. I didn't know who or what I was even supposed to be fighting. All I knew was that I was exhausted. I was confused. And I just wanted everything to stop. And that is the end of the chapter. I have to go early tonight, guys. I can't do a question and answer session. My caregiver has to get me in bed early because of scheduling issues with change of shift. So I'm going to get going now. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave them on the YouTube channel and I'll answer them. But that's all for now, guys. Love y'all. Bye.